How are you? How are you? How's it going? Having a day? Having a day? You're doing opening, right? And you got Yes. Let us now settle into a spirit of worship with a moment of quiet to be followed by the music of Jim Scott, I Am Waiting, played by our music director and pianist, Matthew Johnson. You are also invited to light a silent candle of joy or sorrow at this time. My friend and colleague Jay Abernathy writes, "We affirm that love is our greatest purpose. Accepting one another is the truest form of faithful living. The search for truth, our constant star. We pledge our hearts, our minds, our hands to challenge injustice with courage, to find hope in times of fear, and to live our Unitarian Universalist values every day as a beloved community. Thus do we covenant with each other and with all that is sacred in life." Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Worcester. My name is Payson. I'm honored to be one of the ministers of this congregation. We are a congregation of love, hope, and justice, inspiring people to take on the challenges of a changing world. We begin by acknowledging that here in Worcester, Massachusetts, we work, learn, live, and worship on the seized ancestral homeland of the Nipmuc people, who survive and remain active as the Nipmuc Nation. We offer a special welcome to those of you who are new or visiting with us for the first time this morning. We're so very delighted that you are here. We hope that you will join us for fellowship hour following the service for refreshments and conversation. If you have questions or desire more information about this service or any of its ministries and programs, please do not hesitate to ask any of us. We invite you to fill out one of the pew cards found in the pews. These cards can be placed in the offering plate or given to one of our ushers or greeters this morning. For those of you who are joining us online, we offer you a very special welcome. For safety purposes and so that we might come to know you better, as you're able, please do place your name on your video feed. Please take a moment to sign one of our attendance clipboards or online to fill out one of our virtual pew cards. Though you are not obligated to sign, we appreciate your information and we use it only for church purposes. During the service, we offer an opportunity to share a brief personal joy or sorrow. If you'd like to have yours read aloud by the minister, please print it on an index card in the pew and drop it in the collection plate as it comes around, or bring it forward during this time in the service, and I will be glad to share it with the congregation. Those cards will then be posted on the bulletin board outside my office for others to be able to observe at other services. For those online, you can place your joy or sorrow in the chat, and we'll read it during this very special time in the service as well. In the foyer are listening devices and large print programs, as well as pew cushions, and you know who you are. So if you find their assistance beneficial, please do see one of our ushers who will be pleased to assist you. We invite you now to turn your technology to worship mode. And finally, please note the announcements on the back of your order of service. There will be time for brief verbal announcements following the postlude. We are so very glad that you've joined us this morning and hope that this is an opportunity for rest and reflection and rejuvenation.
I was just reminded of the young person who had recently been awarded his own cell phone, and that he was looking for the worship mode to turn off. Our welcoming words are by John Corrado, entitled, "Here We Are." Here we are, children at the big party, having our moment in the sun, our piece of the action, till our bodies give way and we are called home. We're one big, not always happy family, given life and breath by an eternal parent we dearly long to know. Now we have our one shot at it, our one time to be a conscious part of this ongoing cavalcade. It's not a free and easy trip. We have to live with pain as well as pleasure, temptation as well as promise, loneliness as well as love, fear as well as hope. We have to live inside a coat of skin wrapped up in drives difficult to control and dreams difficult to achieve. And though we are the guests of honor, we don't get to set the time of the party or the place, nor are we consulted about the guest list. This is our time, and there really is just one question. What are we going to do with it?
Would you please rise in body or in spirit and join together in our opening hymn this morning, hymn number 358, found in your gray hymnals, Rank by Rank. Rank by rank again we stand, from the four winds gathered hither, loud the hallowed walls demand, whence we come and how and We come to that time in our service that is called Change for Change, where those youngest among us roam the congregation with their baskets. This is their weekly effort to contribute to the ongoing ministry of the emergency fund of this congregation. If you have change that you would like to contribute, please raise your hand, and one of our young ones will find you swiftly. We should all take heart that running down the aisle with your offering is exactly the right attitude, as our treasurer will want to remind us. My friend and colleague Margaret Weiss writes, "The church is not a place, it's a people." The church is not only a steeple above the tree line, streets and cars. Rather, it is a people proclaiming to the world that we are here for the work of healing and for justice. The church is not walls built stone upon stone, held together by mortar, but rather a person, linked with person, all ages and genders and abilities. A community built on the foundation of reason, faith, and love. Church is not just a set of doors open on Sunday morning, but a commitment day after day and a moment after moment of our hearts creaking open the doors of welcome to the possibility of new experience and radical welcome. The church is not simply a building, a steeple, or a pew. The church is the gathering together of all the people and experiences and fear and love and hope in our resilient hearts. Gathering however we can to say to the world, welcome, welcome, come in, lay down your heartache, pick up hope and love. For the church is us, each and every one of us together, a beacon of hope to this world that so sorely needs it. We come to that time in our service when we're given the opportunity to share that which is symbolic of our own efforts, an offering that helps sustain the ministry and mission of this congregation. I'm mindful of just how precious that ministry and mission is 2 days after we witnessed the destruction of the Congregational Church in Spencer, not Sterling. I was in Pennsylvania at the time and got the text and immediately turned to Twitter in order to see a horrific vision of a church that was in flames and a steeple that toppled into it. a church whose structure dates back to the early part of the 1800s, whose congregation dates back into the 1700s. A testament to exactly what my colleague Margaret Weiss is talking about, and a lesson that they are learning all too painfully in this moment, that what they lost was a building, not a congregation. What they lost was a structure, not a church. And yet it is so very, very painful because of the amount of effort and energy that goes into the maintenance of such structures, and the pride that not only congregations take in the property that they maintain, but also the neighborhood and the community that uses that property as an anchor, as a way of telling direction, as a sign of home, a pride that it looms larger than the congregation itself, and we too reflect that in this community. And so on Sundays like this, when we honor our heritage and we call ourselves together for our annual meeting in order to take up the business of this church, it is important that we pause and remember why we are here. And an offering is only an offering if it happens outside of that conscience, that consciousness, that what we do here matters, that the people we gather here matter, that the people that we serve in the larger community matter, and that what we can contribute to all of that is what matters to us, and part of that which is symbolic of our own effort. And so we take up an offering, but it is so much more than an offering. It is another moment of commitment and recommitment, another moment of celebration. So many of us who give in the plate remember people who were here when we got here, who are no longer here anymore, so that what we contribute becomes a legacy for not just ourselves, but for so many people who made this place welcoming for us, and our job to make it welcoming for so many others. So let me say right now to you, whatever you would contribute to this offering is welcome, as you are. And so many other people have been, and so many more will be over the years because of your sustained effort, for which I am now and will be forever grateful. At this moment, the good news is the offering will now be received. We come to this time in our service when we're given pause to consider what is deepest in our hearts and what is profoundly on our minds and the word of our King. In the days of this transpired over the prospect of days to come. Joys and sorrows reflected deeply are given another measure of dignity with our capacity to share in the midst of the pain of that children. So I invite those of you who are joyous and sorrowful to move forward and to remind you of the sanctuary. This is my plaything. And then it comes speaking into the microphone briefly, first telling us who you are so that those who are auditory hands devices might also participate in the support ritual, and then to light a candle if you so desire. Are there joys or sorrows to be shared this day? Also, for those of you online, a reminder, you're welcome to place a joy or sorrow in the chat, and we will hope to share that as well.
Hi, my name is Laura. I have many candles, so I'll just go quick. Today marks the 2-year anniversary of Manny Familia, who not only was a hero but became an angel today when he was attempting to rescue a drowning child at Green Hill Park. I think they're having a service down there because I saw a whole bunch of police that were doing things. I can't believe I haven't acknowledged after 10 years, Jeremiah Oliver's murderer was finally arraigned, and hopefully his mother will be too. Many years ago, I've told everybody that he was that little boy that was flung out of on 190 in a suitcase, and I visit him often. Now for a more personal, I'd also like to acknowledge whoever is getting text messages from my daughter. I appreciate it. It's very embarrassing, but I appreciate if anybody's reaching out to her. A couple weeks ago, TJ, it was a young veterinary technician in Kentucky, died in his mother's arms when a client came in to their veterinary hospital, pissed off about her bill. And she shot him. I say this because I am a veterinary professional, and we too get some pretty nasty people. Recently, we did have to just file a report from a woman that left about 6 voicemails saying that she was going to destroy everyone in my animal hospital. So to think there was some years that people would break into our place looking for ketamine, and now we have to think about, because my place seems to be too expensive, that some of us must lose our lives to take care of animals. I'm sure this happens in the medical field, but in the veterinary field, we get such amazing clients, but we get treated like crap. So I just want to acknowledge that no woman should ever be holding their son or anyone on Mother's Day over a bill.
Thank you.
Geez, Laura, that's hard to follow here. Oh, such sadness. So I want you all to envision I'm wrapped in orange. I didn't read the memo that we were supposed to wear orange today for gun violence, but just envision it. I'm Susan, hi. I wanted to tell you about the human indomitable spirit. Like a month ago, my daughter Zoe and I, oh my God, we were planning the most incredible trip to Nova Scotia. We were going to stay in all these neat places and everything. And then the fires started burning. We looked it up and it was like, well, Nova Scotia's off the thing. We'll figure out something else. And then in the meantime, she is now trying to extricate herself from a 5-year relationship. So she's about as much company as that book. So,
Easy on the book.
yeah, really, it's probably more company, let me tell you. So I just want to get up here and say, now Mara's gotten involved, and we're going to go to her house on the lake, and we're going to have a great time. So there,
Excellent.
there.
Hey there, I'm Sarah Doolittle. I just want to say happy Pride Month. And I just want to share that this means a lot to my family. So my stepchild, a while ago was pretty down. I found some writings of theirs that were really dark and hooked them up with a therapist. We kind of started a journey of figuring out what was going on, what their gender was, what their sexuality was. And after figuring all that out, they are so much happier. They actually said this is the happiest they've been in their life. And so because we've been supportive, this month they are figuring out their new name. So every week it's a different name and we're trying to figure out if we like it. So I've decided in their honor to do a fundraiser for the Trevor Project, which is a project that supports teens that don't have family support. You need to have like at least one adult in your life when you're a gay or queer, genderqueer child, teen that supports you, because they found that the suicide rate is so high. And I am so thankful that my stepchild has us and that we have them, because they are happy and flourishing and they have a girlfriend and they're just so wonderful. And not all children have that. So if you think of you have a little extra money sitting around somewhere and you want something to donate it to, consider the Trevor Project.
Thank you.
Good morning, my name is Paul, and as you come up here and speak, you'll notice the obnoxious white spot on this microphone. I reactivated or trying to redo the talk to the dot, so hopefully everybody can hear us, especially with hearing aids. And I also had a story about that church burning in Spencer. I used to go to AA meetings there, and it was really a neat place. I mean, it was old, but old has nothing to do with the church. It's there was just a spirit that was there, and it's sad to see it burn down. I guess they said it was struck by lightning. Yeah, don't know, but I'm sad of that. And one of the joys I have is that I've been trying to get somebody to mow my lawn, because I was going to buy a lawnmower, but I got other things to do, and well, I do. Sorry. But the thing is that what had happened is I was coming home Friday because I was working in Boston, and the front of my lawn was mowed, but I guess the back of it needs to be mowed. But I think what happened is it started to rain, so they packed up and left. So maybe they'll be there this Monday. Well, I'll keep you posted.
Hi, I'm Michaela, and I just wanted to share something that happened not this week, but the week before. What they teach you in medical school is how to do good medicine by the book. Lots of decision trees, if this, then that. And right now the research shows to do X, Y, and Z. And that's fantastic. And for a lot of people that works really, really well. But for a lot of folks, my folks who tend to struggle with chronic homelessness, substance use, chronic mental illness, standard medicine doesn't work. But you still want to do good medicine, right? But they don't teach you that. And so you learn that from your mentors, from people that you work with. And I was blessed to work with this absolute fruitcake of a woman named Dr. Marcia Tunor. and you just never knew what came out of this woman's mouth. She was brilliant, and she was fantastic at the art of, I don't want to say mix and match medicine, but what do they understand? What access do they have? Will fit the medicine to somehow do that. They can't pick up an antibiotic or an antifungal for their trench foot. Fine, we'll put a bleach solution. They can come here and soak it for 40 minutes once a week. All these kinds of adaptive things. And she taught me so much. And a couple of weeks ago, I was thinking of her because I haven't seen her since I left Healthcare for the Homeless in Fitchburg, which was about five years ago. And I had done a technique that I remembered from her hands teaching me. And I texted her to let her know that I was thinking about her and so grateful for what she taught me. And she didn't answer me. And that is not like her. And I gave it a few days, and I just had a bad feeling. So I Googled her name. And unfortunately, she passed during the pandemic. She was immunocompromised because of a kidney disease. She only had one kidney, and she had to be on like immunosuppressants to be able to keep that one kidney, which wasn't originally hers. And she had passed, and I didn't know it. And so I didn't get a chance to tell her how much she taught me. She was just so cool. So I just wanted to honor her name out loud. Dr. Marcia Tenor, you taught me so much. And that her medicine will continue through me. And when I meet with my students and my new docs and my new nurse practitioners, I'm gonna teach them too. So it's gonna continue. And on a positive note, I'm from Tennessee. Well, I was raised there, wasn't born there. And the Supreme Court decided that their ban on drag shows was unconstitutional. And I was very, very happy about that because that just made me really embarrassed to come from there. So yay, Supreme Court. Okay, thank you, bye.
Hi, I'm Debbie Merrill. This year, Juneteenth, is the day after our last in-service meeting. It's June 19th, a Monday, and I'm looking for something meaningful to do. And so if anybody has any ideas, I would really appreciate it. The town that we live in has zero diversity, so I don't think there's going to be anything going on there. And my university is closed, so and will be closed. So I would welcome any ideas. This year, that day is particularly meaningful to me because of a book that I read that just came out. And so I'm going to put on my academic hat for just a minute. The book is called Under the Skin. And it's by Linda Villarosa, who's a medical sociologist. And one of the things that I will always remember from that book is, in the past, it's always been assumed that the reason for the higher rate of mortality among Black mothers and their babies had to do with differences in prenatal care. And that turns out to not be the case. That in fact, if you, I forget which is which, but the maternal mortality rate for Black women is like 2 or 3 times that of white women, and the infant mortality is whatever the other one is, 2 to 3 times that of non-Blacks. But what's really very interesting is, though, if a Black physician is the one attending that mother or that child, that difference disappears. And to me, that is very telling about how racist our society really is.
Mm.
Hi, my name is Matt Bajun. My joy is a simple pleasure. We had the privilege of having some house guests, Kate's brother and his 2 kids, twins. So there was lots of laughter and craziness with my kids. There was mini golf, there was ice cream, there was pizza, and it was lovely.
That's great. Some religious communities, we call that communion. Tech team, I'm not seeing anyone online that has shared a joy or sorrow. Just checking with you. Okay.
The only thing we saw was Dave Bono shared with that he was baptized in the Spencer Church.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thank you for that. I want to raise up the name Terry Louise Field this morning, the mother of my childhood best friend, whose life I got to celebrate this weekend in Lancaster, Pennsylvania, where it was 80 degrees. And it was a remarkable event with all kinds of childhood friends who I have not seen in years, an opportunity for us to gather. Can you turn my mic down just a little bit? It's really hot. Down. Perfect. So I came back early this morning from Pennsylvania, and still thinking very much of her, and offer that as a remembrance as well. Let us be in the spirit of prayer and meditation. Spirit of life, source of our inner and outermost being, we come this day to remember ourselves and each other, those that we serve, and all whom we remember as legacy into the heart of this community and into the heart of our common life. Mindful of the gifts we have received from generations before, and mindful that we too are a gift that will be received by generations coming after. Help us to hold gently the memory of those who have impacted our lives. Give us the courage to live not only our purpose, but to carry forward the purpose of so many others. Let us also be grateful for lives that have gone before us, whose lives were taken from us, whose memory continues to inspire us. Let us also be grateful for the service we offer each other, and for the wisdom that is received from the experience of those whose lives on the margin need to inform ours, so that there is no margin anymore, and that our common life can be realized and honored and loved. Amen, and blessed be. I've kind of always been convinced that some people just come to witness Matt and I playing with each other back and forth. And today is no different because I kept thinking about Dvorak on my way to Pennsylvania this weekend, where I was going back home to visit a place that I had known for the first 18 years of my life. And then remembering the words of Thomas Wolfe, whose posthumously published novel in 1940 was entitled "You Can't Go Home Again." Two seemingly incompatible expressions of desire and reality. I went back home, but it wasn't there. I mean, I stayed in a hotel that I remembered as a child that had been completely redone to great satisfaction. I drove past my old house. There were things that had been grown in the front yard since back then that I did not recognize, and the field across the street was now a row of townhouses. I still took a picture so I could show my children. I left from there and went past the park that I played in a couple of blocks away and remember it as just one long field with this hellaciously funny hill in the middle of it that we sledded down and ran down and played on. The field was filled with pop-up tents. There was some magnificent carnival or fair going on with the street lined with food trucks. That had never happened in my childhood, so I was envious. I would have eaten my way all the way down the block. At that point in my life, I wouldn't have gained any weight either. I drove down the street past Franklin and Marshall College, where I spent much of my childhood wandering the campus and going to wrestling tournaments and watching the older kids, wondering what it would be like to be them. Thinking at the time of the ripe old age of 8, that's where I'm going to college, only to realize at the age of 14, that was way too close to home. Turned the corner, headed for the concert hall where the memorial service that I was doing was going to be held. Decided to take a detour to go see my old elementary school. Oh, the building was still there. But there was a huge addition that had been built onto it. I thought to myself in one breath, isn't that marvelous? They're serving so many more children, even though school only serves 5 of the 6 grades that I remember attending there. But in order to build the addition, they had to completely take over the playground, which meant that there was some large gymnasium on the inside, I suspect. And I kept thinking to myself, no one is going to experience the thrill of a kickball over the fence or a softball into the next street. But perhaps there are other thrills that they have in mind. By the time that I got to the service, which was really a concert, Terry Field was a concert pianist who was very large in the life of the classical community there. And I had gone to school with one of the now finest classical violinists in the area who teaches. His parents are known worldwide as a classical piano duo. So I opened the service, and then there was Dvorak and Rachmaninoff. And despite what the The order of service said, Jules Mazinet. Those of us who have studied French understood that it was Jules Massenet. So we got it right. And we remembered her in incredible fashion. And what occurred to me in that moment was, even though it was so powerfully painful to go home, the reality is that home wasn't a place like, you know, the Spencer Church is a church, it's a building, it's not a congregation. Home is something that you carry with you. Home is where you recognize people who welcome you as family. And that is the experience that I had there, going back to see people that I hadn't seen in 20 years and picking up conversations like we had finished them yesterday. And I thought about this place. And the reality that I have spent more time in Worcester, Massachusetts than I spent in that place that I wanted to call home, which is odd. And what occurred to me was how grateful I am to have a home to come home to, and a community that reflects those values that I hold so dear. So on this Heritage Sunday, I wanted to begin with that. Thank you for making this a home, not just for me and my family, but for so many people who are looking for a place to commune with people who will care for them and about them, and who will hold them through tender and tremendous times in their lives. There's something utterly theological about that. I mean, this is a congregation that began back in the mid 1800s as an expression of a theological orientation that sought to reflect something very different than what was being experienced in churches across Worcester at the time, who had marginalized people because they had not been deemed blessed by the divine, either because of their lack of success in this life, or the color of their skin, or their trade. And there was a group of 9 families that gathered in 1841 who said, no, I'm sorry. There is something far deeper for us to celebrate, and who we are now began back then as a vision that did not have a structure like a church. They met in the courthouse that first time, and then in Brindley Hall, which no longer exists. They built a structure much like they had witnessed in New York City, of Community Church of New York, down on the end of Main Street, where the base of the church was mercantile space, and the upper part of the church was a sanctuary and some smaller off rooms for office and for a fledgling religious exploration program. That church faded to become the church that is of beloved memory here down on Chestnut and Pleasant Streets. Now it's a parking lot. Back then it was a Gothic style, extraordinary structure with a half circle sanctuary and organ pipes that went to the roof. It was an expression of the ethic of the time. And it grew to be about 1,000 members, about 700 children in this religious exploration program. And then by the World War II, the town had changed, and the church was beginning to suffer the ravages of urban development. People were beginning to move to the suburbs, and the next generation of people said, you know, we are not a building, we're a congregation, and they moved here. And they set about establishing the first congregation to reside in this part of Worcester, because that's where a church was needed. and we have been here ever since. But those of you who have been around longer than many others will remember that this place didn't used to be carpeted. When you pull it up, there are black and white tiles on the floor. That the space up here that now welcomes our choir had a jazz band in it. That what dawned the altar at that moment was a cross, because we were Christian Universalists at the time. But by 1968, we had discovered that that could confine us ultimately as a congregation. And there was a velvet revolution here where one Sunday we walked in and there was a cross on the altar, and the next Sunday there wasn't, and there wasn't a whole lot much more than a murmur. 1970 rolls around and we have a brand new minister who brings with him the most remarkable expression of our theological development at the time, and was committed to a vision of humanism that transcended the singularity of any particular religious tradition and welcomed them all. So within a year, what was a blank wall up here became a wall full of symbols, an expression of who we were becoming. 2 years later, this same minister, who now we call Minister Emeritus, David Miller, confronts the congregation and says, look, we can either pay for a minister and sell the building, or we can keep the minister, or we can keep the building and sell the minister, essentially, right? Because we were trying to confront a different era of our financial woes. If it wasn't for the ministry of a couple of other ministers locally who came in and said, it's not a binary, you don't have to do one or the other, you can do both. You can keep your minister and your building, but you're going to need to think about ways of utilizing this building and raising money by communicating with the community at large and inviting them into this space. And from that crisis in that moment, this congregation evolved to become who we are today. And the symbols that dawn our sanctuary became symbols that dawned the front of our building. And the most hysterical part of that, for me, is that the symbols went up on the building in 1973, right? It was the moment that this congregation was showing people the building in order to buy it, right? They were trying very hard to figure out if the Presbyterians wanted the building or Bancroft wanted the building, or who it was that would be willing to purchase it, and where we would go, they had yet to figure out. In the very same moment that they're trying to sell the building, they put the symbols up on the outside of it. Now, the sociologists here will go, well, isn't that fascinating, right? The most extreme expression of ownership of property by putting symbols on it happens at the moment you're trying to sell it. So from a subconscious standpoint, you think, they really did not want to sell this place. And in the process, they figured out the most creative expression of their transformation from being Christian Universalists to being universalizing Universalists. Back when Aldous Huxley was all the rage, all of these pathways up the same mountain. This congregation has met every challenge that it has faced, but it has not always kept its property the way it was. It has transformed itself in order to meet those challenges. And we have that challenge that continues today. Ask our treasurer. She is sweating the fact that we have $8,000 in the bank right now, which is not enough to pay the payroll next month. Good news is we have a yard sale that we hope will make bundles of money, and we have people that will hopefully pay their pledge in the next month that have been a little behind. We'll make it. I'm certain of that. And we're going to consider this afternoon how we're going to make it next year. But in the process of doing that, we're also going to have to envision ways for us to begin to make our budget lean so that we can continue into the future, which is part of what the discussion will have to be over the next year. I say this to you because we are in a period of time in our culture where money anxiety looms large. What we forget, though, is we're in a community where we have faced this over and over and over again, and we have figured out ways of not just maintaining our ministry, but expanding it. Not just being who we have been, but welcoming who we are becoming in very creative ways that have made for more life here. And that's my invitation to you. On this day when we celebrate the legacy of the delight of love and service, by asking you the question, what challenges shall we inspire people to take on here? How shall we manifest ourselves in the world in order to bring in more justice, to decrease the margins that people are shoved to bring people into the center of our lives who have not known the quality of community that is available to them here? And not just, I'm a radical here. This is not about inclusivity. Because interestingly enough, inclusivity and exclusivity are ways of maintaining power. You choose who to exclude, or you choose who to include, and you choose what to include. I don't want to include anyone. I don't want to invite people into the heart of the congregation in order for them to understand that their experience and what they value is constitutive of who we are. Not to say to them that they're welcome because they're like us, but that they're welcome because they are. And how do we expand our notion of what it means to share the power of this congregation in order for people to feel like they belong? Not because we invited them, but because they have arrived. I wish our country would have a similar kind of ethic. So we'd stop spending so much of our energy deciding who gets across our border and instead put our energy into reflecting the notion that our ancestors crossed the border and enslaved the inhabitants of the continent, and in the process, can we stop enslaving people in order to maintain our power? Can we create community that reflects a different kind of ethic? That is our job now. We began as a theological vision of the promise of the love of the divine. And now we must reflect that theological vision into the very corners where it is being challenged most destructively, whether it's upholding our democracy and encouraging people to use the power of their vote, whether it is serving families who are homeless, not just to make certain that they have a roof over their head, but also to become aware of the ways in which we continue to manifest an economy where homelessness is the outcome, so that people don't become homeless. We must figure out how to use our power differently. Not just share it, but welcome its expansion. That is the vision that I have of this place. And I'm so honored to call this place home. Amen, and blessed be. Would you please join in the litany that is found in your gray hymnals, number 591. I call that church free which enters into covenant with the ultimate source of existence. It binds together families and generations, protecting us against the idolatry of any human claim to absolute truth and authority. I call that church free, which brings individuals into a caring, trusting fellowship. It is open to insight and conscience from every source. It bursts through the rigid tradition, giving rise to new and living language, to new and broader fellowship. The goal is the prophethood and priesthood of all believers. The one for the liberty of prophesying, the other for the ministry of healing. Would you please join together in hymn number 103, also found in your gray hymnals, and rise in body or in spirit. Colleague Burton Carley writes, cheered by our community, blessed by our covenant, uplifted in mind and renewed in spirit. Go forth. Go forth with courage and peace to meet the days to come. But more importantly, come back. Come back home. Amen, and blessed be. Once again, beloved, worship in this place has come to an end. Next is our opportunity for refreshment and conversation while we quickly transform this place into a place of annual meeting. We will call for you from Fellowship Hall probably in another 15 minutes, and hopefully our meeting will be pro forma, but we'll see.